guys, Olive here today to talk to you about what is on my June 2018 TBR. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, then you probably know that each and every month I select one book off of my Classics TBR and one book off of my Young Professional TBR to read for the month. This month, the classic that I'll be reading is This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I have not read an F. Scott Fitzgerald book since I read The Beautiful and the Damned, which I believe was back in 2015. I don't know why I've waited so long to pick up another F. Scott Fitzgerald book, especially since getting through his catalog has been a goal of mine for a very long time, but I'm certainly going to work on getting closer to achieving that goal this month. And my Young Professional selection for the month will be The Optimism Bias, a tour of the irrationally positive brain by Tali Sharot. This is a book on human psychology that talks about why we are hardwired as humans to look on the bright side. As I've talked about several different times in the past when talking about how I select books for my Young Professional TBR, I think it's very important to understand human psychology if you're going to be successful in the workplace. And that includes coming to know my own psychology better. I do consider myself an optimist, despite a myriad of reasons not to be one, so I would like to understand why that is the case. And then when it comes to the other books that I'm planning to pick up in June, I would really like to read When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. During most years, as summer starts to approach, I find myself craving lighter books, which often includes YA. Just a couple months ago, I read a YA book that I did not click with, to say the least. I made an entire video about that if you're interested in watching it. But after that experience, I definitely needed a little bit of a break from YA, which I took, and now that some time has passed, I feel myself ready to go back into reading YA. I just recently finished a YA book that I really did enjoy. It was definitely a palate cleanser, so now I'm ready to pick up a couple more. This is a YA romance novel, but focuses very heavily on Indian culture, which I think is fascinating. This cover is also really making me crave an iced latte right about now. Another book that I'm planning to pick up in June is a nonfiction selection called Eyre, The Surprising Secret Life of Beavers and Why They Matter by Ben Goldfarb. I saw Steve Donahue get an advance copy of this book in one of his many mail hauls that he does on his channel. As soon as I saw it, I knew I needed to have it. I'm a sucker for a good natural history book. I am fascinated by all the animals that we have here in North America, specifically in the eastern United States. Despite a lot of people considering them a nuisance, beavers are actually a very critical part of the functioning of our ecosystems. After seeing Steve haul this book, I requested a copy on NetGalley, and I will be eager to pick it up. Another book that I'd like to read in June is called Bright Lines by Tanwi Nandini Islam. This is a coming-of-age tale about a girl who is orphaned and then moves from Bangladesh to Brooklyn to live with her uncle and aunt. This book takes place over the summer, so I thought this would be the ideal time to read it. I also received this one in a Book Riot quarterly box a very, very long time ago, back when they used to do their quarterly boxes. I think it's about time that I read this. The next book that I would like to read in June is Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I would definitely consider myself a foodie. I am counting down the days until the new season of MasterChef premieres. I'm honestly really confused that I've never picked this book up before. It seems right up my alley, and I've been totally into memoir lately. This one will likely be an audiobook selection that I listen to during one of the many long drives that I'm doing for work still. A book that you guys have recently convinced me to pick up is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. I recently talked about this book in a video where I was talking about all the most popular books that are currently on my TBR. In that video, I expressed my reluctance to pick this book up due to a very negative experience I had when reading The Marriage Plot several years ago. But over and over again in the comment section of that video, I was hearing you guys say just how good this book is, how different it is from The Marriage Plot, and it sold me. But I knew I needed to pick this book up sooner rather than later while I was still feeling that motivation, so I'm doing it this month. I am also planning to buddy read The Eyre Affair by Jasper Fforde with Amy Poole. She just recently read Jane Eyre for the first time and fell in love with it, which was so exciting to see. I'm pretty sure I remember her hauling The Eyre Affair before she had even read Jane Eyre, and I had said in the comment section of that video that number one, she needed to read Jane Eyre, and number two, after she did so, I would love to buddy read this with her. So now that she's read Jane Eyre, I think we are going to try to read this book together. This is set in a fantasy world in which famous literary characters are being kidnapped from their stories. Our heroine in this book and in this entire series of books is a woman named Thursday Next, and she is investigating the case. I have heard so many different people on BookTube say just how much they love this series. I can't wait to get started, and I think I'm gonna have a great time buddy reading this with Amy. And though I am excited about all the books that I'm planning to pick up this month, I might be the most excited about these next two. That is because in the month of June, every single year I reread my favorite book of all time, and that is Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. I have so much love for this book. It's absolutely overflowing. I cannot wait to get back into this story. The only difference about my reread of Rules of Civility this year is that I'm going to be reading it alongside another book, and that book is Walden by Henry David Thoreau. Rules of Civility references this book and its central theme of living simply, so I thought that it would be a really good idea to read this book in its entirety since I've only ever read snippets of it while I was in school, at the same time that I will be reading Rules of Civility in order to get a little bit more out of it this time. Needless to say, I can't wait to get started. And the only thing left to do in this TBR video is to pick my random selection off of my TBR for the month. If you've never seen me do this, what I do is go to my Goodreads to-read shelf, use a random number generator to select 3 books at random off of my TBR. Those are my 3 options, and then of those 3 options, I pick 1 to read for the month. Option number 1 is a book that was right behind me. That is Corvus, A Life with Birds by Esther Wolfson. Option number 2 is How to Be a Victorian by Ruth Goodman. And option number 3 is The Sisters Medeiros by Patrice Sarath. This one is a fantasy book that just came out in April. I was secretly hoping that my random selection this month would be something dealing with fantasy. I've been really in the mood to read a good fantasy book, but could not pick one off of my TBR for the life of me. So this one is perfect, and I'm picking this one. So those are all the books that I'm planning to pick up in June. I would love to hear from you if you've read any of these books, if you've heard about any of them, or if you now want to read them after hearing me talk about them. You can put that or any other comments or questions you might have down in the comment section below, or if you'd like to find me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media. The links to all of my profiles, as always, are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!